Okay, cool. All right. Before we start, I just want to go over the school schedule real quick. I wasn't sure about next week because I knew that fall break was really early in November. It's actually the 7th and 8th. So the Monday and Tuesday, second week of November. I know it's really freaking late. I don't know why they did that. I'm gonna have to start like looking at when y'all's breaks are and just do that because I'm allowed to. That's probably what we're gonna do in the spring because the spring break's like in April. It's like the end of the semester. It's real dumb.
I hope it's on my birthday.
Y'all have to let me know. Because then, after fall break, 7th and 8th, we have the rest of the week. Well, the 2 days. I guess for us, just the night. And then we have a full week, and then Thanksgiving break is like the next week. So we have Monday, Tuesday here, and then we're off the rest of the week. And then, the following week, move on. That's the last week of class. We'll be here the 5th. So Monday classes, we will be able to at least do one more day. But yeah, we're almost done. Like, once October ends, it's like November's just not even there because they give us 2 breaks within like 3 weeks. Which I wish we'd have had a fall break earlier. I was having a very tiring early October. So yeah, just FYI. I know y'all's fall breaks don't necessarily fall on these days, but I'm not going to be here the 7th or 8th, so y'all don't need to be here the 7th or 8th. And, or at least for me. I don't know what other classes are doing. But that's the normal, at least for Francis Marion courses. I don't know about Tri-County. Not Tri-County, Florence Arlington Tech. I worked at Tri-County. Yeah, so we won't be here. Online people, I won't be teaching on the 7th, but that's still like 2 weeks away, so we got time. Yeah, and then, like I said, Thanksgiving break and Thanksgiving holiday. So, let's move on to the stuff. We've got like 2 more slides left, and then, wrong one. And then we can do the study guide. So let me get this up. This should be where we ended. I might have done one more, but just to make sure. Let me make sure that that's not right. Projector. There we go. Okay, and then online. Okay, got a little wonky. Awesome. Great. Okay. So let's finish this, and hopefully you guys at least looked over your study guide because that's what we're going to do once we get done. And the faster y'all get it done, the faster we can leave. So, this should be where we ended. We had Yorktown, which was, the end of the war, realistically, 1781. But it still took 2 years to actually get the treaty done, which is really long even for a war back then. But it was because France was extremely invested in their monarchy. So they, despite them being like, oh, well, we'll help you because we hate the British, but then when they're like, oh, wait, you guys are anti-monarchy, we don't know about all that. See, there was a whole thing to that. And again, the geographic changes, north to Canada, south to Florida, which is to say, England still had Canada, Spain was given Florida back, and then west to the Mississippi River. Then we have Yorktown. I do like when they give us these neat little battle maps, which it's weird seeing these like with how actually extremely detailed they are compared to like the maps I have for Greek and Roman battles, where it's just there was this group of dudes and this group of dudes, and they were in the same area, so they fought. That's kind of all we got. There was an encirclement at one point. That's about all they got. And then there was the issues within the colonies. Even while this was happening, the 300 men marching on Philadelphia because they were not given back pay. And then the extent of the territories following the war. So, let's move on to the end. So the actual victory in this war wasn't entirely expected by anybody, including the Americans. Again, we were... it wasn't like we invaded England and, destroyed their armies. But with France and Spain, we were able to force them out of the war. So there were a lot of reasons behind this. It's not just like, oh, well, the Patriot forces were better. It's like, no, they definitely were not. We were under-equipped, under-trained. Most of the men weren't willing to fight in states that weren't where they were from. But with the leaders, at least, they'd learned their military strategy in the 7 Years' War, which was very recent, relatively speaking. They had fought on a lot of the same battlefields they ended up fighting on in this war. And again, the distance between us and Britain made a big difference. Because as I've said many times, and I will say again, Ireland attempted to, overthrow British rule on their island since the Middle Ages. And it's kind of hard to do that when Britain is like right across this little sea. Like they're right there. But when it's the Atlantic Ocean, we got a little bit more of a buffer zone. There was also different outside assistance. The British had mercenaries, allies among the natives, and the free blacks, all of which had their own goals in terms of like working with the British. They didn't really care for British victory. They were just, helping in the war for their own reasons, which, the mercenaries, the Hessian mercenaries, they were there for the pay. They didn't care. The native allies were just trying to hold on to their own land. And of course, the ex-slaves were just wanting to get out. So a victory didn't really matter to them as long as they could leave. Meanwhile, we had the French and Spanish, who were very familiar with fighting the British because that's been a thing since Britain existed. And also, they had significant gains beyond North America. There was stuff in, the West Indies, even in like Southern Europe, in Gibraltar. So there was a lot going on beyond just our little war, beyond what we're used to being taught. Let me make sure that my voice is actually transmitting. Okay, that would have been a pain in the ass. All right. And also, if the British were to actually win, they would have to go through each state, each colony individually, because it wasn't like if General Howe had taken Philadelphia and, captured the Continental Congress or whatever, yeah, it would have been a pain in the butt in terms of like coordinated resistance. But most of the resistance wasn't entirely coordinated anyway. Like all the state militias were kind of doing their own thing. Most of the fighting down here in the South was guerrilla warfare, and you definitely don't need central command for that. So yeah, it was going to be tough for Britain regardless. So even if they managed to stop the army, they had already pissed off the citizens enough that it would take a while to put all this down. So, to finish this off, a lot of the more simplistic histories of the Revolution, and even British officials at the time considered the start to not begin. I can't words. The war didn't really begin until the Declaration of Independence was written and signed, but it certainly wasn't the case. It had been a gradual slide into rebellion for years. And even when open fighting had happened, we had Bunker Hill, Lexington and Concord before that. It took some time before enough people were willing to push for independence that it actually happened. However, as we're going to see going forward, for like the next several chapters, most of the soldiers that were fighting in the Continental Army just wanted to go home and, get their pay for fighting in the war and just get things back to normal. But the government, especially with the Articles of Confederation, couldn't supply that money because they couldn't really tax the colonies. So that was going to be an issue. And then as farmers began spreading west, coming into conflict with natives, it would show, especially one particular incident, just how weak the federal government was under the Articles of Confederation. They really couldn't do much of anything. Meanwhile, those that had been leading the revolution still did plenty once the war was over. Thomas Paine was in France advocating for the French Revolution, which it's a whole thing. I'll give you as brief a summary of that as I can when we get to it. Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, John Adams were all in France and Britain as ambassadors. So there was still much state work to be done even after the treaty was signed. And as I've mentioned before, even like right after the war, I'd say like immediately after the war, France was probably our greatest trading ally. But it didn't take long before we were like trading with Britain almost exclusively because all the infrastructure was already there. And we're like, well, they've got a lot of money and we've got stuff that they want, so we can trade. It's no big deal. And then we had the War of 1812, and then as soon as that war was over, we went back to trading with them again. So it didn't really matter. Anyway, let me shift the display. Hopefully it won't screw up the projector like it did the previous time. Let me see if this is working. Go there. Good, great. We're looking into infinity. Okay, hopefully. Give that a little poke. All right, good. Okay, study guide. Where is my test? Why is it like that? Where'd it go? Okay. So, let's go to the study guide. And hopefully you guys are at least somewhat familiar with this stuff. Kind of necessary. Right. So So let's start back in chapter 4 with religious and social upheavals. So there are a lot of different Puritan ministers. Well, really two we talked about. Who was the Puritan minister who complained about mercantile elites in Boston, from their wealth to their fashion sense? He was angry at pretty much everything. You know his face? Yeah, he had a face.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. All right. It's up to you guys to answer it. I'm just here. Yes, it was Samuel. Right it correctly. Sewell. Now, compared to Sewell, who's a Puritan minister who tried to actually meld the Puritan ideals with real-world desires, even supporting smallpox inoculations. That's the other one. With the Cotton Mather. I was going to. That's the one with the interesting name. Cotton Mather. So we've got the guy that was complaining of the world of the colonies, which is to say everything, and then the guy that supported scientific advancements was Mather here. So, is there anything more? Oh. Now, I did have to do some true false here, and I don't know how to ask it without just giving you the question. So, what were ways that Puritans believed they saw like signs of Satan's work in the world?
I understand the question, but I don't understand.
Well, I mean, it can actually go for both. It's the how did the Puritans believe they saw God or Satan, depending on the context, I guess, working in the world, like proof that there was stuff going on.
Well, my first answer is not the right answer. I'm going to say that answer forever.
It's real broad. Yes, it's in there. It's actually more broad than that even.
Behavioral changes.
What's that?
Behavioral changes.
Even more broad. It's just like,
Is it people?
well, stuff in nature, actually, like natural
Weather?
events.
Like natural disasters?
Natural disasters, weather, animals getting sick, people getting sick, because that's nature coming and getting you. Yeah, so the signs in nature were seen as like evidence of, if it's a good thing, then it's like, oh, this is God helping us. But if it's a bad thing, it's like, oh, it's Satan trying to get us. You know, so it's like, oh, we needed rain and it rained. It's God helping us. It's like, oh, wait, we didn't need rain and it rained a lot and flooded out our fields. Must be the devil. Oop. Try that in. Okay. Oh, damn it, that was there. Bonk. Okay, got ahead of myself, I got ahead of myself. Don't do that. don't do that.
What's wrong with your computer?
It's Microsoft Word. There. Okay. So that was its own question. I didn't realize that. I wasn't. Scroll down. Okay. Yeah, so when it came to detecting the devil doing stuff, they saw, any sort of like eclipse or a comet or whatever. Spooky lightning storm. Definitely the devil. Okay. Let's get on to Salem. This is where most of the stuff for this, well, we've got two main things for this chapter. This is one of them. All right. Who was the slave from the West Indies whose fortune frightened Salem into the witch hunting frenzy in 1692? Tituba. Okay, that was just me fat fingering it. All right. Who was the reverend in Salem who dealt with this outbreak of witchcraft hysteria? Well, his last name's more important. Paris.
Yeah, Reverend Paris, that's his name. Samuel, what your name?
Samuel Paris. Yeah.
It was one of those generic names. I knew it.
It's in there somewhere. We've got several Samuels, but just remember the last names. Those are what's important. All right. So while all this was going on, Massachusetts got a new governor who came to help with the trial. What was the name of this governor? Starts with a P.
Starts with a P.
Yeah.
Paul's?
Yes. Phipps.
Definitely not Paul.
What was his first name?
Where did I get him?
William Phipps.
There was a William. I knew it. Somewhere.
So while this was going on, the governor set up a special court to oversee the trials. What Puritan minister did he put on this special court? What? I mean, they're all reverends. No, not William Bradford. No. This is actually someone we've already looked at.
Is his name John?
No, his name's not John. Yes, Sewell again.
I would never guess it.
Okay. The short answer. What's the term for evidence used in witch trials? I have here evidence found in dreams that were used in the witch trials. Spectral evidence. Okay, so that's what we got for Salem. What started it, the reverend, governor, special court, and the dream evidence. Okay. Bump. What was the term for the English concept of the unity of husband and wife, where the wife was politically, socially, and legally covered or hidden behind her husband?
Oh, I know it, but I don't.
It's that old English term.
What's the letter?
I can't tell you the letter.
You don't know it?
There's a lot of letters. Yes.
What is it?
Dim convert.
Oh, yeah, never mind. I didn't know it was. That seems like Shakespeare. I don't know.
It's from that era. Okay. All right. This is another one I've got to ask kind of in a weird way, so pay attention. So this was the legal way things were supposed to be. You know, the wives basically have the same legal rights as the children. They're supposed to, you know, stay inside and do domestic work. Did the reality, when it came to, say, farm work, always follow this law? Correct. Because, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me try this again. Everyone did farm work. They did more than pick berries. They kept after the chickens, and they milked the cows, which is a nightmare. They had to wash the clothes, which is its own thing. They had a garden to attend to, which gardens back then weren't like, oh, here's my little window garden. It was like an acre or more of land. They were split between what parts of the farm they worked on, but they still did farm work. So it wasn't like, you know, what you think of with the 1950s, where it's like, oh, the women stay at home and wash the clothes and cook the food, and that's it. It's like, no, not when you're trying to survive. Okay, so, still here. How they handled a divorce. If they wanted a divorce, who'd they have to go to? The court? Yes, so they had to go to the city council, but who sat on the city councils of these states? Well, church members,
Dang, that's kind of.
church leaders, actually.
That's real sad for them. Darn.
Yeah, so, but that said, and this one's kind of an easy one for everybody. In any kind of domestic dispute, any kind of legal dispute, who typically had the most power? Correct. Okay. I think that should be it for the. Yeah, that's it for that. You don't have to put that. I just put that for my own self. All right, on to Pennsylvania. What was the name of the purchase that used a forged treaty to get more land after William Penn died? The walking purchase. Louisiana's later. Yes, the walking purchase, because of how far they could walk off in a day and a half. I think that's actually it for that one. Okay, now for everything else. The Great Awakening. So let's just, yeah, we can do that because I've got them smushed together. All right. So, we had two groups that had opposing views on how to handle the crisis of diversity. The first wished for all Protestant churches to work together regardless of denomination. There were two groups in the early really before the Great Awakening. One wanted all Protestant churches to work together regardless of denomination against this like crisis of diversity because, oh no, there's Catholics here. There were probably Puritans involved, but no, this is a different term. It's right at the start of the Great Awakening section. No. That's more of a broad term as well. Although that did sort of come out of this. It's the two opposing groups right at the start of the Great Awakening. It's easy to tell there are two opposing groups because of their names. No, but they were all there. This might just be a thing that the book really went into, but it made for two easy questions. Because remember, the Great Awakening was a shift in how things were done, and it split the churches. That's much earlier. This is the first of the two groups that we talked about when it came to the Great Awakening. They wish for all Protestant churches to work together in the face of this crisis of diversity. This is the New Light clergy. Because we'll just go to the next one. What group wanted to remain in the old ways and stuck to established social sects? Old Light clergy. Right, so, the New Light clergy did other things as well. It's multiple choice, you'll be all right. So yeah, remember the New Light clergy moved beyond denominations. Old Light clergy did not. There, see, easy. All right, let's see. The intellectual movement. I really can't say much more than what's up there, because that's basically what's on the test. What intellectual movement was the Great Awakening partially a response to? The Enlightenment. No, the Protestant Reformation is way before this. Because these are all Protestants, is the thing. We do have another group. Hopefully you guys know this because it's a weird word. These were the German Protestants that pushed for people to follow their heart rather than their head in spiritual matters. We never talked about them again, but this thought process really informed how the Great Awakening would go. So these were German Protestants who felt like you should follow your heart rather than your head. Don't think about it. No. If you've got it but can't pronounce it, just try anyway. We'll be fine. These are the German Protestants who wanted people to follow their heart rather than their head when it came to spiritual matters.
Does it start with K?
It does not start with a K. I don't know where you'd have a K. It's a small word. Even though it's like 3 syllables? I don't know. Words are weird. It does. Good enough. Pietist. And I mean, I don't know if this is the German root, but I think it comes from being pious.
I thought you were about to say, I was about to say You say
Pietists.
pietists.
Yeah. At least that's my assumption. Yeah. So the pietists, follow your heart as opposed to your head because God no like thanky, I guess. Speaking of how dare they make us think, what were the 2 colleges that trained ministers at the time in North America? Yes. We had Harvard. I'm just going to put this, William and Mary. College of William and Mary. Okay. Neat. Is that it for the Great Awakening? No, it's not. We have another minister, another name to remember. This minister used networks of communication to travel quickly and spread his word, which spread the ideas of the Great Awakening. He's got an easy name. Whitefield. Yeah. We're not doing some of those other names. Okay. Again, not sure how to ask this, so we're just going to do that. What was the overall effect on the unity of the church within North America of the Great Awakening? Did it unify groups or did it split groups along certain lines? What's that? Disunity. Yes, good. So, although the congregations that all, especially with the new light clergy, but they're light clergy too, they did get stronger. They became more vigorous. They usually had more members, but a lot of congregations split entirely. And I mean, we have the separate Baptists showed up at this point. Like their name is literally the Separate Baptists. So, yeah, there was a lot of disunity within the church. Okay, on to the next chapter. Yoink. All right, so, let me make sure I don't have, okay, that's much later. What was the term for forced recruitment? Well, we have there. The term for forcing citizens into the Royal Navy. Yes, impressment. Due to, they called the groups the press gangs that forced them into the ships. So what war against France increased the tensions in North America, especially against the British? So what was this war that's really where you're talking about this chapter? Yes. Let me get that. 7 years Okay. In this war, who was the British politician who managed to turn things around in North America? Because we weren't doing so hot. Who? Yes. We don't have it yet. Who was the British politician that managed to turn things around in North America during the 7 Years' War? William Pitt. Pitt. You got there. Okay. And finally, at the end of the war, we had the Proclamation Line of 1763. What was the geographic limit of settlement that this instituted? Because, you know, the war had gotten all this land from France, but the British wouldn't let North American colonists use all of the land. So what was the dividing line that they made? Yes. Make sure I'm spelling that right.
Is it Appalachian or Leash?
Depends on where you're from. Appalachian Mountains. Some people do say Appalachian. Rude. Okay. That's it for that. So, now we've got a whole bunch of taxes and stuff. Yes, we will get there. So, there were a lot of acts that Parliament passed to try to raise money. The first act, it was specifically meant to stop smuggling in the Caribbean as well as, you know, raise revenue for Britain. The specific Navigation Act. You got to pay attention to what each act does. The Navigation Act has to do with smuggling in the Caribbean, and smuggling in the Caribbean basically means piracy. And when I think those old types of ships, I think, you know, you got to have your navigator or you're going to end up in rocks. So, Navigation Act has to do with the ocean. Smuggling. I can't type. Okay. So, the colonists wanted representation in Parliament. Parliament responded by with a new act that put a tax on all legal documents.
Ooh, this one's the same act.
Correct. Oops. Yeah, because you can stamp paper. Now this one isn't as obvious in terms of the name. So, let's see. This was the tax on goods such as glass, paper, and tea. Specifically, it was due to a new prime minister coming into power.
I don't know.
Townshend Acts.
Oh, I do know that one. I thought it started with T. Girl, I said I thought it started with T.
Acts, because plural.
I do know. I just felt it.
Okay, short answer, Tim. Let's see, where's my brain? Okay, so there are all these tensions with the taxes and whatnot. What was the name of the violent clash between protesters and British soldiers in Boston in the winter of 1770?
Boston Tea Party.
There wasn't a fight at the Boston Tea Party.
Oh, he said fight. He did say fight.
Yes.
The next one's got to be Boston Tea Party. It's got
I'm
to
just
be.
going to skip that then.
There's no way.
So the colonists, sort of eventually responded, destroy British property, in particular 45 tons of tea. This
Boston
is,
Tea Party.
okay, I was worried there.
Knew it.
So yeah, the Boston Massacre was the actual conflict or violent clash between the colonists and the soldiers. And the Boston Tea Party was the property destruction. And one more act. Let's find out.
Oh, I might know this one.
Actually, yeah. So after the Boston Tea Party and the Boston Massacre, British closed the port of Boston, revoked the charter, set up a quartering act. All these were known as the Coercive Acts in Britain. What did the colonists call them?
Intolerable?
Yes.
I remember that from the paper, from the board. Because we couldn't take them out. No, because they couldn't take them out.
Am I spelling that right? I am. All right. That's it for that. This dude gets his own
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson.
Samuel Adams.
He ain't know those people.
Sorry, I keep bumping the mic.
Why is everybody named Samuel? Man?
It's a very popular name back then. Samuel Adams was in charge of the Sons of Liberty, who were the more violent of the opposing groups in North America. Yeah, former politician, head of the Sons of Liberty. Okay. Let's get on to the war. So, starting with, where were the first shots of the American War for Independence fired? Lexington.
That's the only one.
It wasn't much of a battle, but there was shooting. Who were the militiamen who formed up across the colonies? They were prided in being able to prepare rapidly to counter British attacks.
Rapid, not that Minutemen.
Correct. The Minutemen. So these are the militia.
If you wouldn't have said not the Alderman, I wouldn't have got it.
Now, we mentioned Lexington wasn't much of a fight. They kind of ran the Minutemen off. Where was the first major battle of the American War of Independence?
Something bird. No. Oh wait, no, not very. It's B.
Correct.
I was
Battle
about to say Bamberg, and that's definitely
of Bunker Hill, and also technically Breeds Hill. Hey, how many of y'all know this one? Who was chosen to lead the Continental Army following the first proper battle of the war? Yeah, George
I don't understand the feeling that she
Washington.
just felt.
Brigadier.
Oh, brigadier.
Yeah, he was a brigadier general.
That's what he was.
All right, more stuff. We're making a good time, actually. Um, Who wrote Common Sense in 1776?
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Paine.
Oh, that's where I was getting that P word from. We were talking about the other
Another one I'm going to have to ask weird. Let's see, do I have it? Okay. What was the level of support among the average citizen for the War of Independence?
Not a lot.
Right. It was split. Support. Two words, two P's there. Was split. In fact, this is something that's in our notes. It was in my notes when I used it from a different professor. It was actually 1/3 for each. So it was like 1/3 supported, 1/3 were loyalist, and 1/3 just wanted to remain neutral. So it was not at all just like all the, colonists were against the British. Okay, we also have the Enlightenment scholar who expressed a social contract theory when it came to the call for independence. What's that? John Locke.
Oh, I didn't know.
All right, do I have? No, that's not till later. Okay. What was the turning point battle of the war? Saratoga. Battle of Saratoga. Battle of Saratoga. And who commanded the Battle of Saratoga? Yes. Benedict Arnold. And one more for this one. One of the major outcomes of this battle, what country joined the War for Independence following? France. Germany did not exist yet.
Oh, darn.
I'm actually really into the German unification, and it did not exist yet. They're like another 100 years out. Okay. So while all this is going on,
So there was Germans before Germany?
yeah, there was like a German region, but they were all little principalities.
Okay.
Yeah, Germany as a country didn't exist. Neither did Italy, actually.
They steal it?
No,
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. Okay, let's see. Actually, I got ahead of myself. I'm also just talking about France there, but that's not a separate question, so don't worry about that. Right. Who were the German mercenaries that fought with the British?
It starts with an H, and that's all I know.
It does start with an H.
Huguenots?
No. Hessians. Huguenots were French Protestants. Wrong country. And also, I don't think the Huguenots did a lot of fighting. They got killed a lot, though. I had to narrow it down to one of the women who fought with the Patriots. Disguised herself as a man, fought as a soldier against the British, and actually got a captain's commission. Yeah, definitely want you guys to know this one. So she's the colonist who, yes, Deborah Sampson. She got her captain's commission. And which side did the slaves usually willingly work with? Correct. Because the British, it's like, hey, you work with us, we'll let you go. It's like, okay, good deal. All right. Let's finish this up. Bum, 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 bum. Where is my thing? Oh, wait, where's... Where was that? I got turned around. Okay, there's a question that just isn't on here. This was during all of this when the states were making their own constitutions. What was the first state to officially abolish slavery in their state constitution? Vermont. Vermont. Yeah, just remember Vermont. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of a state to begin with. Okay. So, to end the war. The final major battle of the War of Independence. Yorktown. What did Britain get out of the war? They didn't walk away empty-handed. What's that called? Correct. Canada. Yeah, Britain got to maintain their hold over pretty much all of Canada because there weren't really any major American offenses into Canada. We'll get to the War of 1812 later. But yeah, Britain was pretty cool with that because Canada had a lot of natural resources, so it worked. Which country regained control of Florida after the war? Spain. Yeah, Spain got Florida back because we didn't want it. I think we should give Spain back to Florida anyway. Okay. Two more. What's the name of the treaty that ended the war? Correct. They're always something of Paris. It seems to be. And finally, with the new boundaries of the United States, how far west did the new United States stretch?
Mississippi.
Correct. Mississippi River. Well, if you write Mississippi, that'll be fine. As usual, there's extra credits, so make sure you pay attention to the short answers. And yeah, I'll see y'all on Wednesday. I'll discuss with y'all in a minute. For y'all, once again, I'm going to put the test up on Blackboard on Wednesday. I want to give you guys until Friday if we can get it done before the weekend. So, yeah, be ready for that. I'm going to try to have it go up on Blackboard like midnight Wednesday morning to give, like, if someone's up late at night and wants to do it then sure. But you've got until like midnight Friday to get it done. So, that's going to be that. Hopefully I won't have any issues because Blackboard's dumb, but I think I've figured it out, question mark. Yeah. Good luck to y'all. Email me if you have any questions. Bye.